Welcome to Bears on Tap, hosted by Quinten Krzysko, Samir Patel, Sonny Verma, and the one and only Luce. Bringing you all the news, analysis, and opinions on the charter franchise, Chicago Bears.
And welcome back to another episode of Bears on Tap. My name is Quinten Krzysko. I hope everyone is having a lovely evening. And you might notice that I am rolling solo at the moment. And that is primarily because it's the holiday season. People are off work. Kids are out of school. There's a lot going on right now. And it is just a hard time it's a hard time for the podcasting community, guys. The holiday season, as you might have been able to tell if you missed me the last few episodes. But we're rolling solo. We're doing the dang thing. And if you'll excuse me 1 second while I'm trying to share this, and Twitter is just not being my friend at the moment. And typically I can get this done in the pre-show, but not this time around. All right, and we're back. So we're here to talk about Bears Lions, the Chicago Bears, your Chicago Bears, sitting atop the NFC North, already clinched it. A record of 11-5. They still have the number 2 seed on the line. They win this game, they lock up the second seed in the NFC, which is huge, right? And let's talk a little bit about what that would mean versus what it would mean if they were the 3 seed or the 4 seed. I think 3 seed is pretty much locked up at this point. I'm not 100% sure on that. But getting the 2 seed is so important. Because say that Seattle gets the 1 seed. Do you trust Sam Darnold? I don't trust Sam Darnold. If Sam Darnold gets taken down and Seattle's the 1 seed before the Bears even have a chance to play them, and the Bears can win their first playoff game, that means the NFC runs through Chicago. That home field advantage is a huge factor. I mean, the Bears have not lost a home game since week 1. Have not lost a home game since week 1. Other losses that they've had this year, the other 4, all on the road. That's pretty compelling to me. Excuse me, as a reason why you should be fighting like hell to get the 2 seed, because no one wants to come to Chicago with the way the Bears are playing, with the way the crowd is making an impact on every football game. So this week 18 game, yeah, it matters. Ben said something today. We're playing to win, or maybe it was yesterday. Regardless, Bears are playing to win. They should be. They should be, because they win. They lock up the 2 seed. And I'll tell you what, this Detroit Lions team is in a spot where they're very beatable. So we've already faced the Lions once this year, right? Week 2, Bears went up to Detroit and got their butts handed to them. Let's be honest. They lost 52-21. It was not a close game. The Bears kept it close for the first quarter, basically. In the mid-second quarter, Lions took a 2-score lead. Bears actually cut it back down to a 7-point game. And then right before half, so it was 14-21 with 1:55 left in the first half. And if you recall, the Lions just marched down the field for a touchdown like nobody's business. And then the Bears were down 2 scores. Jalen Johnson got hurt again. It was his first game back. He got hurt again. And the Bears had no answer at all the rest of the game. You know, they just went from 14-21 to 14-28, ended up being 21-52. It was 14-45 early in the fourth quarter. Not pretty. But that was a very different Lions team than what the Bears are looking at this week. Lions sitting here at 8-8. They're out of the playoffs. They've got nothing that they're actually playing for outside of pride. Guys, they are missing so many football players. I know the Bears have had injuries, but the Bears have gotten really healthy down the stretch here. Lions kind of had the opposite. Lions kept getting more banged up, while the Bears were just really banged up early. Terry Arnold, starting cornerback, is on IR. Brian Branch, one of their best defensive players, one of their best football players, safety, nickel corner, on IR. Kirby Joseph, last year All-Pro at safety, on IR. Sam Laporta, outstanding young tight end for them, on IR. Brock Wright, their number 2 tight end, is on IR. And then for guys who aren't on IR, I mean, Avonte Maddox, who's filling in for Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch, missed last week with a back injury. Giovanni Manu, who, was just kind of a fit 6 offensive lineman for them. He's out with a knee injury. And why does that matter? It matters because Taylor Decker missed last week with an injury. He was also sick. The flu's been going around. So maybe I kind of think he's going to play this game, but I just think it's worth mentioning that Manu is also out. So they're down to their 3rd offensive tackle if Taylor Decker cannot play. Now, aside from that, I mean, Christian Mahogany, starting offensive guard, was questionable with a fibula injury, which almost makes me think it's like a high ankle sprain or something when you're saying fibula. Liam McNeil exited the last game. He's a stellar defensive tackle for them. I think very highly of Liam McNeil. He exited with an abdomen injury after missing games earlier this year. On top of that, Monra St. Brown, I don't think they want Amon-Ra to play from the way it sounds. From everything that's being put out there, it's like I think they'd rather Amon-Ra sit, but Amon-Ra doesn't want to sit. So I'm assuming he's going to play. I think he's still been fairly effective playing through the knee injury that he has. But moral of the story is that this Lions team is not what it has been. And last week, I mean, Graham Glasgow missed the game last week. I didn't realize watching on Christmas just how many Detroit Lions were out of the game because the sound wasn't on. We were at a Christmas party, but Graham Glasgow being out, the Lions' number 2 center is also out. So that made it so that they had to play their 3rd center on the roster. It was Kingsley Aguakun. Just a tough spot to be in. Very tough. Now, let's talk a little bit about how I think these teams match up. So, I think the Bears have a pretty notable advantage O-line to the Lions D-line at this point. I mean, Hutchinson is a stud. And so is DJ Reader. I don't even know if it's that notable on there. It's wide receivers, I guess. You'd say the Bears have an advantage because their corners are just so depleted. Like with Rocky Sin out there starting, that's not what you want. Their defensive backs really so depleted. With Daniel Thomas and Avonte Maddox already being free safety number 2, potentially still being injured on top of that. Like, it's man. They still have a decent amount of talent, but I just don't think, like, on the offensive side. But defensively, I just don't think they're going to be able to hold up with anybody. And that offense, I don't know how much last week was a Brian Flores just does what Brian Flores does versus the Detroit Lions offense just being kind of broken. And let's see how they've done the last few weeks prior. So like they scored 24 against Pittsburgh the week before that, 34 against the Rams before that. They were in shootout mode since week 14 basically, or even week 12. Like they had to win in shootout fashion, and they were doing a decent job of it. At least in week 14 they did a decent job of it. 15 they lost, week 16 they lost, week 17 they couldn't figure out Brian Flores. I'm really interested to see how this Detroit offense looks this week because they were really down and out against Flores, but I think they're a much better team than that. And it's week 18. They've got nothing to play for, but I don't know. I think Dan Campbell's team is going to show up and really do that. They're going to come out and fight because that's what they do. But anyways, let's get to our first segment here. and we'll talk about the baddest men.
The baddest man.
We are talking about the baddest man on the Detroit Lions here, the guy who the Bears need to really be aware of. And there's only one place I can go with this, and it's got to be Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is a bad dude. 17 touchdowns this year, 1,700 yards from scrimmage, almost 6 yards a touch on nearly 300 touches. Offense runs through this guy. Like in previous years, it was David Montgomery and Gibbs were kind of a lot closer to a 50-50 split. This year, that has changed. This is the Jahmyr Gibbs show. Monty's still got 170 touches on the year, but man, he's one of the most dangerous men in the NFL right now. It is really hard to think anything differently. Honestly, when you watch them play, he is just an explosive play machine, whether it's through the pass game, on the ground. If I'm the Lions and I just watched what CMC, Christian McCaffrey, did to the Bears linebackers, and Shanahan has a lot to do with that too, let's be honest. But if I just saw that, I'm trying to find ways to replicate it and get Gibbs on those matchups there to really, really max out what he can do in this game. Because, I mean, even, and again, week 2 is two very different football teams, right? Bears are very different, Lions are very different. But Gibbs put up 94 yards and only 12 carries. That's a pretty dang efficient day. Touchdown there, 42-yard carry. So you take away his 42-yard run, he still put up 52 yards and 11 carries, still an efficient day. Jahmyr Gibbs has to be the baddest man on the Detroit Lions roster. Now, other guys that I consider here, I think Penei Sewell is probably the biggest difference-making run blocker in the NFL. So he has to be considered. Amon-Ra St. Brown playing through the knee injury. I think that he's still putting up some solid numbers. Aside, even last week, 8 catches for 68 yards, 4 catches for 54 yards, 13 for 164 before that. Even through the injury, I think that he's dangerous. And Jameson Williams, man, like the amount of speed. This is what I kept saying in the offseason. And every time I look at the Lions roster, I'm just like getting flashes of it. Like Ben Johnson loves speed. The Bears don't have speed right now. But like this is the offense that Ben Johnson built, right? And they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs highly. They drafted Jameson Williams highly. The Bears are gonna, like, this offseason, and this is off topic at this point, but I expect the Bears to go and add some speed to their roster somehow, some way this offseason. Because right now, like, whenever I say this to someone, they're like, Luther Burden ran a 4.4. To me, Burden is bursty and quick, but he's not speed. He's not the speed that keeps safeties awake at night. And that's what Jahmyr Gibbs and Jameson Williams are. They have the speed that is just like, if this guy gets a half a step on you, there's no making up for that, unless you have a safety over the top. Like, this Lions offense can put up points in a hurry because of the threat of that speed and forcing defenses to respect it. So ultimately, I could say the baddest man for the Lions offense is just speed. I'm going with Gibbs, but like, to me, it could just be speed. And in the comments, get Amy Small here saying, need Lions to beat the Bears. I need some more Bears fans in the comments here, guys, because I'm not sure why you need the Lions to beat the Bears. Unless you're like an Eagles fan, maybe a Rams. No, not Rams. That has to be a division winner. It's got to be Eagles. Got to be an Eagles fan if you're saying you need the Lions to beat the Bears. The Lions have no reason to need to win this game. Now, going on to the Bears, who's the baddest man on the Chicago Bears this week? I'm going to play the matchup game a little here. So, let's see who went off for them the last time these two teams played. How'd the Bears do? I mean, if anyone went off, like I said, they lost 21-52. But let's see. Swift had an efficient day. 12 carries for 63 yards. But no one really really did all. Romo Dunze had 7 catches for 130 and 2 touchdowns, but I'll be honest, I'd be kind of surprised if Romo Dunze is playing this game with his foot injury. I would just think you're holding him out to the playoffs now. I'm gonna go someplace that I haven't gone all year. I think Bears baddest man is gonna have to be Kyle Monangai. I think the last time the Bears played the Lions, they lacked a physical element to their game. And I think a physical downhill rushing attack is a must against a Lions team that is going to pound with you, is going to really try to break you, based on the games they played when it still mattered. But I need Benungai to be breaking tackles. I need him to go get downhill fast against a defense that likes to attack and linebackers who really do like to get downhill. And I need him to set a tone, break some tackles, and just make them feel the hits. Like, not just like he needs to give out hits to the Detroit defense, not just take hits from the Detroit defense. I need him wearing them down. So for me, the baddest man this week needs to be Kyle Monangai. But with that being said, let's get to our next segment here.
The nicest man.
The nicest man. So this is a guy that the Lions are, might be kind of friendly with by the end of the game. They feel good about this guy. They're like, I'm okay with him. He's a good dude because he helped them out in that day. And to me, the guy here who scares me. Early in the year, this was a pretty popular pick for us on the nicest man. But as the year progressed, he took some big steps and really improved significantly. That's Nahshon Wright, and that's the guy I'm worried about potentially being the nicest man again in this game. I think he was my nicest man in this game in week 2. I'm just not. Last week was not a good feeling watching him play. It was concerning because he looked more like he did early in the year, in my opinion. And that's not someplace you want to be. So PFF only marked him down in the first matchup for 1 target, 1 catch, 44 yards, and a touchdown. So not as bad as I'm remembering, but I don't know. He has a hamstring injury he's playing through. He had the flu last week as well. There were just a few moments where it was like his change of direction weakness was really highlighted in ways that we hadn't seen since early in the season, which makes me wonder, okay, so did they get better at hiding it? Did he improve at it? And if Bears got better at hiding it, what changed last week? What did Shanahan do to force their hand to not be able to hide it in the same manner? Because he looked like a very different player against the 49ers. 7 targets, 6 receptions, 101 yards. That's not the same guy who had been, playing outstanding football really since like week 12 or so. Maybe it's just the fact that he kept getting picks when they challenged him, so teams stopped going away from him, and a lucky streak might have kind of died down. I'm not sure. I'm hopeful that it's not a lucky streak. I'm hopeful that it was just one bad game, but against Jameson Williams' speed, against Jahmyr Gibbs' speed, I do have a little worry about if that hamstring is what caused his change of direction to look a little worse, or Shanahan found a way to isolate him more than other teams had. That's on tape now, and teams aren't going to go away from it just because of what he did 3-4 weeks ago. I really think the Lions are going to attack him early to make him prove that what happened against the 49ers isn't the normal for him, because there's still so little tape on him in the NFL that we're still learning what normal is for him. Like we saw the Pittsburgh game early, it was first quarter. Pittsburgh went straight at him with a 50-50 ball DK. He picked it. then Pittsburgh stopped going at him. Like, it's stuff like that, or I mean, I guess they didn't stop going at him. They still targeted him 5 more times, but they didn't have a lot of success with it. Maybe their strategy changed. But Nahshon Wright still makes me a little nervous. And the bright side of that is, if he does start really struggling, you can turn to Tyreek Stevenson. I feel okay with that as a Bears fan. But but I do expect them to basically attack Wright early, and it'll be interesting to see how he responds. Now, for the Lions, the nicest man out here, and I mentioned his name a little earlier, but I'm thinking Brock Ya-Sin has to be the guy I'm talking about here, just because he's a guy who really, he shouldn't be starting in this league at this point. He's not that caliber of player anymore. And I'm curious. I'm looking up his stats right now as I'm talking. So, he really hasn't been burned much this year. That's interesting. Only giving up 255 yards and 45 targets. I mean, he hasn't played a ton of snaps, but like that efficiency isn't 11 yards a catch on 50% receiving. Maybe he's not my nicest man, guys. Let's think this through. It's going to be the safety room. You got to find ways to attack the safety room, up the seam, middle of the field. So I'm rescinding my Rock Ya-Sin comment, because he's not really been a liability for them, which is surprising to me. But you got, I believe it's Daniel Thomas out there starting, and then you've got Vontae Maddox, who was a fine player a few years ago. I'm not really sold that he's that good anymore, and he's playing injured. Last year, they had Jalen Mills back there, his former Philadelphia Eagles running mate. Find ways to attack the safety room. And that's where the Kyle Monangai baddest man aspect can kind of come into play here, where like you had my baddest man statement for Kyle Monangai was to get a physical downhill run game going. That forces a safety down into the box, forces safety to enter run fits more aggressively. And that's where you can really attack a safety room at that point, because you're forcing them into single high concepts where that guy is isolated deep middle now, and you can run route concepts that really try to take advantage of that. So, yeah, I think that's safety room. That is the way to go here. And other guys I could consider, I mean, still hard. Like, I mean, how do you attack a tight end room? I mean, and if anyone has any thoughts on that, toss them in the comments. But like, this is like, this tight end room is down to tight end 3 and tight end 4 for an offense that requires a lot of tight ends. I guess in the run game, you can attack a tight end room, where in run defense, you can attack a tight end room. I feel like Ferkser and Zylstra are like decent blockers. So I'm not sure if that's how do you attack a tight end room? It's an interesting question. But anyways, let's take a look at some keys to victory before we close this thing out.
Keys to victory.
All right, so the last time we talked about this, week 2. Here were our keys to victory in week 2. Number 1 was that Caleb Williams has to be a quarterback, not a running back. Because he led the team in rushing week 1. But he needed to, like in week 2, we thought he needed to do it through the air. This can't really be a key again, because I think this has been answered, right? We've seen that Caleb is doing it with his arm. I'm not concerned about him caring too much about running. Our key number 2 was to stop the Lions' run game without selling out. And this one, I think I'm going to stick with this one. This needs to be a key again, because I think this always needs to be a key against this iteration of the Detroit Lions. They want to get you to do what I was just saying. to pull your safeties out of coverage and down into the run fit. And that's how they become such a deadly play action team. You combine that with their speed that I've, waxed poetic about already on this show. It gets really hard to stop them, because if you're playing cover 3, right? And say it's cover 3 buzz, where you have like Jaquan Brisker playing kind of the intermediate. There's like, you're starting too high. Jaquan Brisker's floating down to the like deep middle, or to the intermediate middle, and Kevin Byard's going up to the deep middle. And you've got Jameson Williams outside against Jalen Johnson. There's no safety help over the top on that. Jameson Williams is faster than Jalen Johnson. It's that simple. Maybe Jalen can jam him at the line of scrimmage. Maybe he can, but then you're pressing. If you're playing press out of cover 3 against Jameson Williams, your safeties are not like cautious about it, because, like I said, cover 3 buzz. So if you have Jaquan Brisker on the play action look, instead of just stopping at the intermediate middle, but coming down to a run fit hard, suddenly Kevin Byard's zone gets a lot bigger because there's no one underneath him. So Kevin Byard needs to match and react to a crossing route coming across his face. He can't be sitting back in the deep middle going like, okay, I see Jammo over here running a go. I need to be ready. Instead, he's saying, I'm the only guy on this tight end. Either we're giving up 20 yards to the tight end, or I'm risking Jalen Johnson with Jammo. So like, yes, you need to be able to stop the run without committing those extra defenders downhill like a Jaquan Brisker. You need Jaquan Brisker to be able to at least play the intermediate in the coverage. Our third key was to force Jared Goff into mistakes. And, I think this is one that the Bears have had some success with historically. Recently, not so much. But Jared Goff is a quarterback that you can get to give you the football at times. At least the Bears can. At Soldier Field, in the cold. Jared Goff's a California boy. He doesn't like this weather. He plays in a dome in Detroit. The hits hit a little harder out here. I want the Bears to make sure they're getting some licks on Goff throughout this game, whether that be blitzes, whether that be anything. The blitzes, you gotta be a little careful, though, because Goff can chew you up on those. But you gotta get Jared Goff to give you the football at least once or twice in this game, in my mind. And that's going to come down to the coverages. And that's, again, it brings me back to my previous key, but you need more men in coverage, less men in the run fit. So your front guys need to be able to stop the run fit, and that will, in my mind, lead you to being able to create more condensed areas of defenders in coverage and taking advantage of it and hopefully getting a takeaway or two. Now, my final key to the game. I need Caleb to do it again. I'm going with the easy one, but a fun one, and one that I think needs to be addressed more. I need Caleb to keep looking better and better in this offense. Maybe not better than last week, but at least on par. This Lions defense is decimated. There's no reason the Bears shouldn't be able to throw the football in this Lions defense. And I want Caleb to prove to me going into the playoffs that his command of this offense has just really gone to the next level. Because like when I look at his stats, I see that, he had a rough stretch statistically from like around like week 13, week 14, somewhere in there. Like he just wasn't completing very many passes. So I guess probably like week 10 following that Cincinnati game, so that New York Giants game, until really week 17 last week. I feel like Caleb did have some, I don't want to say a rough stretch, even though I already said that, but it didn't feel like he owned this offense to me. I felt like he had spurts of really nice stuff, but last week looked like he owned this offense through and through. He lived it. He lives and breathes the playbook. That's how last week looked to me. I want him to look like he lives and breathes the playbook again before going into the playoffs, because that would just give me so much confidence in this offense, in this team. It will give them so much confidence. I mean, if we even look at like a big one to me is that the last 3 games, his turnover worthy play rate has gone down significantly. His EPA per play has gone up significantly. His adjusted net yards per attempt has gone up significantly. Last 3 games have been really nice. And they've just been getting better and better statistically and visually. Like eye test, I think he's gotten better each of the last 3 weeks in different aspects. And I felt like this past game against 49ers was kind of where it all came together to be a really impressive package. I just don't. I look at this Lions defense. I don't see much reason why that can't be the case again. I think they still have some good players. I think DJ Reed's a good player. I think Aiden Hutchinson's a good player. I like DJ Reader and Tyleek Williams. I'm not sure Lee McNeil's going to be a big factor in this game after an abdominal injury that cost him the second half last week. Like I said early in the show, since the injuries have really hit Detroit, they've been shootout or bust. Caleb Williams is going to need to show up in this one for the Bears to be able to really take advantage of this opportunity to get the number 2 seed and have hopefully home field advantage throughout the playoffs. But guys, ultimately, I'm going to go with a somewhat high scoring game, but a bit of a lackluster effort from Detroit. My score prediction, I'm going to go Bears 31, Lions. Let's go Lions 20. Bears 31, Lions 20 in a game that was probably closer than the final score says, but I think the Bears end up winning handedly by the late fourth quarter. But thank you guys so much for watching, for listening, for sticking with me on my solo episode. I hope I didn't rant too much or get too off topic at times, but we'll talk to you guys again later this week. I believe me and Ron are going to be doing a Friday morning O-line show, so make sure to tune in for that. And until then, bear down.